companies are going to have to step in and create these communities. It can be in form of co-living, in form of co-working, or really something else. And that's how we call ourselves co-spaces, or we call it product co-spaces, because it doesn't matter if it's about living, or if it's about working, or if it's about having a house dedicated to health and fitness. It's just about being together in the real world. And that's all that matters. And that's where I see the whole industry shifting.
And so connection is so important. So connected and experience-based living will become more and more important. Also co-spaces, the home office, is going to become more and more important to provide that space. An idea about wellness and well-being will become more and more important. And for us, we hope to really build buildings that can allow different sections of the community to occupy and experience co-living.
Christine here with another fun, exciting episode of the Co-Living Code Show every single Wednesday on YouTube, on Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. And if you guys can write us a super quick review, we'd really appreciate it. And I want to give ISL Furnishings a quick shout out. They are a brand created through Inner Space Living, and they are all about creating exciting spaces where design meets function. Interspace parlayed its success in commercial grade unit furniture and conceived an elevated offering. And they believe strongly in the co-living industry, which is really cool. And they already work with some of the larger companies like Star City. ISL Furnishings was founded with the mission to bring your brand to life. Their goal is to revolutionize the unit furniture experience, and they are driven by creativity. They believe that interiors should inspire brilliance. Every venue has its own voice. They exist to clarify that voice, interpret your brand vision, and deliver superior quality on time, every time, even during COVID. We actually interviewed the guys a while back, so you definitely want to check out that interview. This week, we are traveling over to Germany to speak with the team over at POHA House. They are a new way for people to connect in the real world that is aligned with the planet. They create sustainable co-spaces for professionals to live, work, and come together under one roof. POHA House provides a range of high-quality furnished flats, flexible office, and community spaces. Their spaces offer unrivaled comfort, eco-friendly design, and an inspiring community. And we actually brought on two of the co-founders today. So we brought on Lea, who is the CPO and co-founder of POHA House and the creator of the Co-Spaces concept. She's been driven by new experiences her whole life, from being a skydiver to living abroad, most recently in Hong Kong. Experiential living has been her pursuit. During her time abroad, she was very excited for all that the co-living communities had to offer, but found the reality of this product had untapped potential. This has been the driving force in her pursuit of one thing that she has always wanted: engaging and experience-driven living. And we also brought on Yianni, who's the CEO and co-founder and creator of the Co-Spaces concept. And despite his original plan for career in law, he jumped into the real estate industry in 2004 with a development project. And while completing his master's in real estate valuation and law, Yianni began converting and developing multi-let apartments. After a career in surveying, he expanded further on the concept by developing high-quality HMOs aimed to attract young professionals in 2010, a venture that would then lead to the ideation of POHA House. Along with Lea and other co-creators, he developed the concept to create a multifunctional building where people could live, work, and stay in a place they all call home. So this was a fun interview because we did dive in deep to sustainability on a future project that they are actually building and about to take over in Hamburg, Germany. And it's amazing what they're doing at that building. I think that's going to be like one of the first of its kind in regards to how sustainable it's going to be. From A to Z. So let's launch into this week's episode. Enjoy. Okay, so we're bringing on this week Yianni and Lea from POHA House, and we're going to tell you what that stands for in a bit. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Thanks, Christine. We're very excited to be here.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So let's start with you, Yianni, real quick. Tell us about how POHA House started and where you guys are located and what it stands for.
Yeah, so, okay, three questions. So the first question, what it stands for. Well, our name was inspired actually by a Kid Cudi song. It originates from the pursuit of happiness. And that's kind of our belief that a home should allow you to pursue your happiness. Where it started, I think we all had our kind of different journeys that led us here, but it started in 2019. It's a result of 5 family members coming together with this idea of taking living to the next level. And it's really a mix of our own personal stories and the realization that, real estate needs to evolve. For me, I started the business, I started my own business back in 2011. And at that time, I was living with my girlfriend, Anka, who is today my wife and a co-founder of POHA House. And we realized we could no longer afford the apartment that we lived in. So we decided to convert that into a co-living space. And we shared it with a number of people over the following years. And what we got was not just this economic solution to our living situation. We met people that would still be our friends, that we call our friends today. And that really kind of created a whole new kind of home for ourselves. And we decided to take this to the next level and make it bigger. And that's when we started POHA House. And at the same time, Lea had her own journey.
Yeah, so I was in a situation where, probably a lot of young people these days are, and I moved a lot, from different city to different city for university, for starting my first job. And I used to go to boarding school as well, which somebody recently just compared to co-living, which I never have, but that's very similar as well. But I was always in a situation where I needed to find a flat, and then I would end up in, a flat all by myself with no furniture, and not knowing anyone. And that was never a solution I really enjoyed. So I quickly discovered co-living, and I've lived in multiple co-living schemes in multiple countries in the last couple of years, and honestly really fell in love with it. To this date, most of my friends come from co-living. Most of my experience I have comes from co-living. And I think it's really a truly powerful product that doesn't get nearly enough credit as it should. At the same time, to be honest, I also realized that co-living does have much more potential, and that needs to also be taken to the next level. And it was funny because it kind of happened at the same time to when Yianni started developing co-living in London, and eventually we kind of came together as a family. So my sister is, Yianni's wife, and so it all comes together, and we as a family then decided to found POHA House.
Perfect. And then we didn't say which city you guys are in right now, in country.
So yeah, so we're operating from Germany. I'm actually based in Aachen, where we have one of our projects that we can talk about later, and Lea's based in Berlin.
Nice. Yeah, and then I know you guys were launching more projects. Are you guys still on the first one, or have you guys launched the next one yet?
So we've got 4 projects in development now. The first one is in Aachen, which is expected to launch early 2022. We've actually run a pilot there for 1 year, where we had 10 flats running, and it was super successful. Really, really cool to see co-living be successful in a city of that size in Germany, which I think many people didn't think was possible. And it really was, actually. We realized there's huge demand for it. And then we've got 3 other buildings in development, one in Essen, which is another city in Western Germany, and a very exciting one in Hamburg, which we just announced recently, and then a 4th one in the pipeline.
Nice. So how many units, Yianni, how many units total do you guys have in the future pipeline?
Yeah, so in our pipeline, we've got around about 722 live and work units, and that breaks back to 500 live and stay apartments and 222 creative workspaces. And it's probably important to say, so we do co-living, yes, but we also do co-spaces. And that differs slightly from co-living, that we always incorporate a place where you can live, work, and stay. So we provide sustainable, furnished, serviced apartments, like creative, flexible workspaces, but also short stay apartments where you can stay for, a day, a week, a month. And that really opens up the building to the wider community and lets your friends and family stay with you in that building. So that's why we have that breakback that I just gave you of co-working and co-living units.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great, yeah, you're right. I think that's nice to have the nightly stay option for friends or family that want to come visit. That's great. What's your guys' demographic? Like women, men, ages?
Do you want to go for it, Yianni?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can go for that. Yeah, so our general demographic, we aim for, well, it's quite funny. I always try and push it out because I always trying to fit into this kind of demographic. It's more of a mindset, I like to say, but generally we find that our occupants are between the age of 20 to around about 38-year-olds, and that's who we really cater for. But as I said, it's a mindset, and you're seeing a trend where, you know, older kind of people, I'd say, which I include myself in, are enjoying co-living or getting married later, and want to experience this new kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I think the people that grew up with co-living aren't gonna just, you know, grow out of it eventually and be like, okay, now, you know, now it's time to move on. And I think sometimes that's the cliche of co-living, that it's really only made for really young people and it's only made for a super temporary time. And I think Yianni as well, we really don't believe in that concept. I think, of course, every generation, you know, has their own needs, and that's, you know, that's obvious. But generally, the concept of living as a community and living in a hassle-free way, that is not temporary, and that's not just for young people. That's for everyone, and that's not going to change as we get older. We're not going to change what we want.
No, that's a great point. And, you know, my next question is, you know, what's your guys' favorite part of co-living? And Lea, I think you like, and I've never even said that either, which is the truth. You know, you said you've made some of your closest friends, you're still friends with them, you know, through co-living in the past. And I was thinking like, oh my gosh, some of my closest friends are, yeah, I lived with them years ago. So Yianni, I would love to ask you, what's your favorite part about your co-living?
Yeah, as you said, I think that everyone here has experienced co-living. So I think we've all lived in that shared apartment and experienced that community. And that's hard to describe to people if they really haven't experienced that community. And what I find, I mean, if you look at your podcast, it's so interesting how many founders have kind of started co-living companies because they've experienced this feeling. So for me, my favorite part is that we can really enhance people's lives, and we've experienced this, and we know how we can make this better. And it's really the ability to look at buildings and say, how can we build these? How can we use these? How can we occupy this to really make people's lives more enriched? I think you said it as well, that, you know, it's our job to kind of improve every area of our residents' life. And I love that. And that's, you know, if you wake up every day with that kind of motive, then that's, how can you not love co-living?
And then back to you guys have co-working spaces. Obviously, COVID's kind of, you know, shifting how to provide that, you know, in a safer way. Did you guys have to make any changes to how you guys had laid the co-working part out?
I'd say yes and no. I think it's a really good question. First of all, the whole, you know, office is changing much more than housing as a whole. And I think actually there's a rise of co-working. Generally speaking, it just, the way it'll be used will change. It might not be, you know, the day-to-day place to work for individuals and companies anymore, but it may act as a more professional home office for anyone who's actually living in the building already, or people in the neighborhood, you know, to kind of have those perks of having a cool community and having a dedicated space for, you know, for creative work, and then another space where you can do a phone call and not just having to do, you know, all the work on your, you know, dining table. So I think that's definitely still going to be in place. What I predict is that people just visit these co-working spaces less often, and that is very much solvable from an operator perspective if you just kind of have more members or rent to more people, but then kind of account for the fact that people won't be there every single day. And that gives that flexibility to more people in the neighborhood. And then there's like, you know, hygiene implications and stuff. We work a lot with having more private rooms and more closed off rooms versus just having a lot of kind of desks with multiple people sitting really close to each other.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and I would say this is an interesting trend in Germany. So because co-working was on the rise, and it's made people really rethink how they frame their offices, and it's pushed co-working back slightly, even though there's more demand. But how people are going to configure their offices are more compartmental office space, and that's what we're seeing as well in Germany.
And then for your guys' events, like again, that probably shifted. So maybe talk about, no, if there wasn't any COVID, what, events are you offering? And then due to COVID, what have you guys changed in regards to the event?
Yeah, I'll go for this one. We have a few different event formats. For me, it was always super important when designing our events to kind of institutionalize events as well, because I think there's a sort of energy in creating a pattern to an event and not just completely randomizing it, while still keeping the excitement and keeping it fresh. So we have a format, for example, that we call Wellbeing Wednesday. Wellbeing is super important for us, like throughout all of our buildings. We're also looking to get well certified. So every Wednesday we want to do, a fitness event, give an introduction to meditation, do, I don't know, a smoothie class. Then, Fridays we do an after work thing. That was, in my personal co-living experience, that was by far my favorite thing. Was one of the operators I lived had this Friday evening tradition, and it was just, it was just a tradition. You would come home from work and you'd maybe be too tired to, really go out in a bar that's kind of, at least in Berlin, it'd be like the opposite side of the city. But, you'd want a few drinks and just relax and hang out with people. And you come home from work and you would find that. And I love that tradition. And then on top of that, just to like spice things up a little bit, we'll do kind of a unique event every 2 weeks, which is just kind of completely different, out of the box experience.
Cool. Yianni, anything to add?
Yeah, so I think that we've been quite lucky because we're not operational at the moment. So we've got our buildings that are coming up to be operational. So COVID has affected us in the way we think about events, but hasn't affected us fundamentally on the events that we provide. But we definitely are looking at ways that we can make Zoom more engaging than Netflix. And we've done that with our team. We have an office in Berlin. We have an office in Münster, and we have an office in Aachen. And we've had events like cook with me kind of workshops with the teams, like cocktail evenings, quiz nights, and we will implement this into the buildings as well, but also encourage our residents to get out of the building. So we just did the Nike Run Club challenge with our team. I got annihilated, but that's okay. I'm not bitter. But it's good to get people out of the building but still connected and engaged with each other.
That's cool. And then but your beta, you guys still have your beta house running though, right?
So we had to shut our beta house down because it's actually been refurbished now into a fully fledged, as we would say, co-spaces scheme. So the beta house ran for about a year. It was a great experience. It was really, I think a pilot scheme in many ways is more valuable than a mock-up room because you get live feedback and live responses from the residents that live there. We got very valuable insights, and we stayed there ourselves, our friends, our family stayed there. They gave us feedback that you'd never get a more honest opinion than a Greek mother. So it was great, but we really understood what worked. And the location, as Lea said, we realized that co-living doesn't just have to work in A cities, it can work in B cities. There's a tremendous demand for the product, especially if you have the right city with the right demographic. And we also, which was great, what we realized was that what we were providing in sense of design was really hitting all the points for the residents, and all the residents that live there actually want to come back to stay in the scheme when it opens.
Oh, great. When's it due to open back up?
Yeah, so we're due to open up in Q2 2022.
Oh, yeah. Got it. And then what are some concepts you guys, from any of them around the world, co-living concepts that you guys really like what they're doing?
Yeah, I'll just start here. I think I used to live in Weave in Hong Kong. I was a big fan of it. That was, out of all the spaces I've lived in, that was my favorite one. Yeah, mainly because I just met some really incredible people that I miss a lot right now because I'm not in Hong Kong anymore. But also what just stood out for me, how professional the spaces were set up. I was one of their first residents. I moved in there shortly before they opened their very first location. And you could not tell that anybody in the team hadn't done this for several years. And that was really impressive to me. for such a new kind of fresh product.
Oh, and we've had Sachin on this show. If you guys want to check out, we had him on, gosh, it's probably been 1.5 years already. So yeah, we definitely had them on talking about weave.
Yeah, Sachin is a really great person. He also saved me once from not having money for a taxi.
Oh.
I was very stressed out because I didn't have any cash, and the taxi driver was very angry at me, and Sachin came to my rescue. So I will never forget that, and he will probably never either.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's about it. And for me, I think that I'm a great kind of love of brands that have innovation and inspire community. I really respect Zoku just for their design of the space. I think they had 6 prototypes. They were on your show as well. I saw that. And they really looked at the space, how you can work in that space, how you can socialize, how can you make it private. I think that's the key, to put the residents first and think about spaces like that. And just recently, I've like during Corona, I've really respected activities that some co-living brands have done. The collectives made their residents write letters of kindness to each other, which I thought was amazing. And Mason and Fifth, who are really focused on wellness and well-being, but they sent all their residents Valentine flowers on Valentine's Day, and I just love stuff like that because it just puts the resident first, and that really connects with us.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, Mason and Fifth, if you guys are listening, we're trying to get you guys on the show. We haven't had them on yet. And it's funny, when COVID started, I was actually looking at the collective's event page because I know they're so strong at events. I haven't looked in a while. So I really love that they did those things. That's amazing. And yeah, I would say Zoku and the collective are usually, they've been voted the most on this show. Every time I ask that, those are like the 2 concepts people bring up and love. And I co-worked at a Zoku for a couple months, and I've stayed there, and it's one of my favorites. So yeah, shout out to those guys. Let's see, I definitely wanted to ask you guys, do you guys have any specific needs? This is a question I've started asking each interview, which has been really helpful because we've already connected some people, but any needs your company wants right now, like investors, funding, property, team members?
I like that. That's a good question. Because there's always needs. Do you want to go for this one, Yianni?
Oh yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we do. So we are currently expanding across the UK as well. So we're definitely looking for sites in the UK. We're very active, and we're actively looking for in the UK. We're also talking to a number of funding partners at the moment. So anyone that's interested in doing joint ventures, partnerships with us, we'll really be interested to talk to you guys. But they're the main 2 points I would say at the moment, but also across Germany, because we're still expanding across Germany. And we've got a very exciting project in Hamburg that I know we have to talk about today, just so you don't forget.
Yes. Okay, we will.
Yeah, maybe we can, along those lines, we're also looking for people. So maybe if I may just jump in. So in Hamburg, we're going to deliver the very first co-spaces scheme in a cradle-to-cradle building across Europe. So that's very exciting, and that's likely to be, in terms of sustainability and creating a space that's eco-friendly, really one-of-a-kind space and building. So we're very excited to be the operator in that cradle-to-cradle building. If anybody works in cradle-to-cradle furniture or does consultancy in the field of sustainability or a smart home that is related to that, I think we're very curious to connect to people in that field as well.
And are you guys building that from the ground up?
So we're the tenants in the building. It's called Moringa, which is a very new brand similar to us, and they're dedicating their whole company to new build cradle to cradle buildings that are fully recycled, and all the resources can be taken apart and reused, essentially. And the one in Hamburg will be the very first one. And we have an agreement that POHA House is their tenant in Hamburg and also in future Moringa buildings to come.
Oh, nice. And then did you guys, so it's like an operating agreement? Do you guys just pay, is it like a management fee? How'd you guys structure the deal?
Yeah, so the deal is a lease agreement in Moringa. Across the board, we have a variety. So we develop for ourselves as well, and we also do management agreements. So there's a variety of forms. But in Moringa, it's a lease agreement. But Moringa is a unique building. It's really a building of the future. I mean, if you could imagine building a site where you can kind of design out waste, well, that's Moringa. And it's probably where the first C2C co-living building in the world. And if you can imagine this building, I think it's worth talking about in a little bit more detail because there's like 93% of it is renewable energy. If you can imagine a building that has like 5,500 square meters of planted area, which is more plants than could actually fit on the surface. And if you could imagine a building that could increase like air quality, not just for the people inside that building, but also for people in the local area, well, that's what's happening in Moringa. And there's a lot more. And I know Leah's got some great features that she loves to talk about all the time. So I didn't take them deliberately, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's more. So there's going to be a beehive. There's going to be rainwater collection that will be reused. There's all the water that is used to water the plants, because if you see a photo of it, the whole building is essentially covered in plants. It looks like a green building. It looks very, very cool. And the watering of all those plants happens automatically through water that was already used, for example, in the showers or in the sinks of the building. So none of that water is fresh water. So there's really, really a lot of cool things. And we like that it's so aligned with our mission at POHA House of just, creating spaces that are also more sustainable and boost people's being.
And we've learned a lot from them. And I mean, all our buildings, as Lea said before, are going to be well certified, even Moringa. But that's kind of, Moringa takes it to a different level. And there we have around about 138 residential units. It's predominantly long stay, but we also have some short stay. There's about 600 square meters of co-working. We've got rooftop views over the River Elbe, urban farming, and we signed a green lease there. So that's an agreement for us to promote sustainable use and management, but also it's an agreement for Moringa to cooperate with us on that basis. So it's really unique and setting a standard for buildings and co-living.
And then that's amazing. I haven't heard of that company. How do you spell it, Moringa?
Moringa. It's a cool company name, actually, because Moringa is a tree as well, and every part of the tree can be used. So it's kind of a symbol for the building that they're building. Yeah,
that's super cool. And then Yianni, the WELL certification, so that's something. And the green lease, I've never heard of a green lease. The agreement, that's cool. The WELL certification, I haven't heard of that one, so tell me a little bit about it. Is it global? What does it consist of?
Yeah, so it's the WELL certification is a global certification. It means that we have to hit certain requirements in terms of air quality, water quality, mind sort of like nourishment and mindfulness within the building. We have 2 people in the firm that are, well, one's qualified AP. Leah's doing her exam now to be a qualified AP. She'd probably be better to answer. She'd probably be better to answer that question because she's going through the exam right now. But it's definitely enhancing the well-being and wellness of our residents, and that's looking at the material health within the buildings, taking out, like Vox, making out material like renewables within the building. It's a process for sustainability, but also a process for health.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of getting WELL certified as an individual, which is also super important for us as a company, because it's just well-being, just like sustainability, is just important for our product. We care to bring it into our product physically in the materials we use, in the types of energy we use. But perhaps most importantly for us, we want to bring it into our community and in our events and in the mindset of the people living in our houses. I truly believe that sustainability is not achieved by restricting anyone's lives, but by finding new opportunities and creative opportunities. And that's what we want to, bring into the spaces.
I love that. And I could see like your guys' actual passion in doing that. So that's super cool. I love that. Hopefully it inspires other people that are watching right now. And when does that building launch again?
So yeah, that's in 2024 and it's Q2, I believe. But as we know with development, we hope it's going to be Q2 2024. And what else is really interesting about Moringa is that Moringa's got a co-living section of building that we operate and we occupy, but it also has residential apartments and it also has social housing as well. And we've come to the agreement that, you know, we're going to open up our community space to certain events for the whole community there. So it's really about, we're not about building this monolithic structure that everyone outside just looks at it and say, oh, that's nice. It's really about engaging the community and getting them active in the events that we're doing.
Awesome. That's super cool. And then the last question I have for both of you guys, we'll start with Lea, is where do you see co-living? I'm sure you're going to talk a little bit more about sustainability as an option too, but in 10 years, like where do you see co-living?
I mean, I could talk more about sustainability, I'm sure, but I actually won't. I mean, there's so many ways to answer this question, but something I really liked. I had an interesting conversation about a week ago, about someone who's also just a fan of communities. Let's put it that way. And he said to me, you know, in the future, there's going to be so many more companies building communities, you know, and not just virtually, but actually in the real world. Just because the way our innovation is going, we don't need physical contact with people anymore, right? There's so more and more things that can just happen virtually. And we as people are going to want to counteract that, you know, by seeing each other physically. And if we think about the world today, if we think about community space and places to connect, the ironic thing is that we often think about spaces that aren't run by companies. We often think about, you know, government funded spaces. We think about libraries, we think about schools, parks, maybe museums, you know, and those aren't the things that are growing at the moment. You know, many of those are even going away. So it's really, companies are going to have to step in and you know, create these communities. It can be in form of co-living, in form of co-working, or really something else. And that's how we, you know, we call ourselves co-spaces, or we call it product co-spaces, because it doesn't matter if it's about living or if it's about working or if it's about having a house dedicated to health and fitness. It's just about being together in the real world. And that's all that matters. And that's where I see the whole industry shifting.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with obviously Lea, 100%. We talk daily about it. So for me, I think co-living has a massive future. It's obviously a bright future. I think it will become more and more scrutinized. I think when you see like countries put in de facto ban on co-living, I think the whole industry has to wake up and listen and understand why that's happening. But the pandemic has really proven that we need co-living. You know, people are fundamentally social animals. People have broken laws to connect. They've subjected themselves to huge fines to connect. You know, they've jeopardized their health to connect. And so connection is so important. So connected and experience-based living will become more and more important. Also co-spaces, the home office, it's going to become more and more important to provide that space. An idea about wellness and well-being will become more and more important. And for us, we hope to really build a buildings that can allow different sections of the community to occupy and experience co-living.
Awesome. That's amazing. And I definitely wanted to talk about and thank you guys for coming back on for second recording, because and it's never ever happened on this show where the recording didn't have, well, we recorded the whole show and then the recording like disappeared. So at least we had a practice one, right, guys?
Yeah, that was really useful. And it made me, I changed my whole setup. I've got a camera. I don't know why mine's flickering and it looks like I'm in some kind of retro TV. But yeah, I try to make it more professional than last time.
Yeah, no. You guys did amazing. And I'm so glad we brought you on, and we're excited to kind of see the future, you know, what you guys are bringing, especially in the sustainability. I feel like you're right, that's kind of, you guys are probably the first co-living to do that, which is going to be really cool to see. So thank you so much, you guys, for coming on the show this week.
Thank you, Christine.
Thanks, Christine. That was awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. And keep in mind, we are on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. And also, if you are a co-living community, you can reach out to us to be listed on the Kindred platform. That's KNDRD.io. It's a great way to showcase pictures, videos, virtual tours of your community. Also, we have a link in the show notes for our 3 books on co-living. You can also find one of them on Amazon.com if you'd like the print version. And lastly, a very quick shout out to our partners over at ISL Furnishings. They bring light to your vision and already work with some of the larger companies like Star City and Quarters. See you guys next week.